Hey there, Empowered Tribe. It's Angela T. Moore. You're getting ready to experience the next episode of Empowered, a health and wellness podcast where I share my personal journey of health and healing, tips for mental and physical health, interviews with health and wellness experts and those bold enough and vulnerable enough to share their own journeys to empower you to succeed in yours. We know that life can be rewarding. It can also be challenging. It has its ups and downs, highs and lows. I learned that with a strong mind and a fit body, you are better able to grow through and grow from whatever life throws your way. My goal is to share journeys of health and wellness, as well as tips and information from extraordinary people all around the world to help you live an empowered life. My guest, Dr. Charletta Dennis, is the Medical Director of Behavioral Health at Priority Health and serves as the main psychiatrist on staff. Dr. Dennis conducts peer reviews to determine the appropriate level of care for patients and plays a vital role in increasing access to mental health services statewide. Her role is critical in ensuring Priority Health members receive the right care at the right place and at the right time. In this episode, Dr. Dennis and I have an empowering discussion about suicide and the importance of suicide prevention. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among people aged 10 to 14, and the third leading cause of death among people aged 15 to 24 in the United States. Suicide is also the 12th leading cause of death overall in the U.S. Even though Suicide Prevention Month is in September, and the topic of suicide is often taboo, we're reminded that conversations about mental health and suicide are important to have throughout the year and whenever necessary to provide love and support to those around us. Dr. Dennis and I discussed the warning signs of a person struggling with their mental health and how parents, family members, or caregivers can provide support. I also talk openly about the loss of my younger brother to suicide. Remember, if you are struggling and need help and support, you are not alone. Please seek help if you need it. Call or text 988 or chat 988lifeline.org or call the number on the back of your Priority Health membership card. I hope you enjoy the episode. Dr. Dennis, September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and it is typically, I would say, a very important month for me as I lost my younger brother to suicide. What is the significance of Suicide Prevention Month, and why should it be important to other people?
Suicide Prevention Month is a time where people should understand that there is treatment for suicidal thoughts and suicidal behaviors. It's important because there are more people who are living with illnesses like depression and anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, who do not seek out help. There has been so much stigma related to mental health and suicides, and it's not talked about enough. It's like a taboo, and we don't bring enough attention to it. We want to bring attention to save lives because people who die by suicide often do not seek out help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would definitely say that is something that I've learned over the years as a therapist and as I've done numerous conferences as it relates to suicide. I do find that, unfortunately, that's a reoccurring theme. Mm-hmm. I also, I would say, feel that the stigma that was associated with suicide and conversations about mental health, I do think it's improved somewhat, and I think some of that improvement was motivated by COVID. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people realized that mental health is a very important topic, and I think that there was a definite recognition that conversations about depression, anxiety, as you mentioned, all those, I would say, more general common mental health illnesses that people experience, mm-hmm. but they didn't talk about. And I think with COVID, there were more conversations that were taking place because I think that there was a greater understanding of mental health by people who didn't really think about it previously. And I think it's because they found themselves suffering and realizing that they needed help. What are your thoughts about that?
Absolutely. During the height of COVID, you had people who were isolated from one another, and there was a decrease in activities. There was decrease in social functioning and social gatherings. So this brought about a lot of feelings, and people were more eager, I believe, to talk about what they were going through. And it became a little bit more acceptable to have discussions about your mental health or your mental well-being.
Yeah, definitely. Now, what's really interesting is after my brother's suicide, it became obvious that there were warning signs that were missed. And of course, in retrospect, you look back and you reflect back and you're just like, oh, that was a sign. That was a sign. But oftentimes there are warning signs that, unfortunately, in retrospect, those warning signs become there's an awareness of those warning signs, but often, unfortunately, after someone has attempted suicide, unfortunately, successfully died by suicide. So for the benefit of those who are going to be listening to you and are looking to you for your knowledge and your expertise and your wisdom, can you talk about what are some of the warning signs of a person struggling with their mental health that could lead to suicide?
Absolutely. Comments or thoughts about suicide are also known as suicidal ideations. They can begin very small. They can start with things like a person would say, I wish I wasn't here, or nothing matters. And I just don't like being here. I don't like being around, or I feel as though no one cares. These thoughts tend to become a little bit more explicit as time goes on. And you can find people saying things like, I just want to die. I need to be away from here, and there's nothing to live for. Suicidal thoughts, much like things that impact your mood, your behaviors, these things cause struggles. Also, people can exhibit other signs. There can be increased drug or alcohol use. There also can be some aggressive type behaviors, or you may notice your loved one or friend withdrawing from everyone. They begin to feel isolated and start having these isolative behaviors. You can also see things like dramatic mood swings. They're elated at one moment and then very angry or withdrawn in another moment. Sometimes you can also see things like reckless behavior. They're doing things that they normally wouldn't, or things that can cause them harm, and just have a disregard for themselves because of what they're going through and what they're thinking and feeling.
Now, one question I want to ask you is, I do recall years ago in some of my studies and my training that one thing that was said was that sometimes you'll see an individual that has shown warning signs and then all of a sudden they appear that everything's okay. They seem blissfully happy and as if they are no longer struggling, but often that's an indication that they have made a decision to take their life, and that somehow that sense of relief of making that decision caused that elation, but that elation is unfortunately the step before they decide to actually take their life. What are your thoughts about that?
There are people who definitely resolve the issue of death, and you can see them have this superficial type expression, superficial joy, and not really look at the fact that they require help. And you will see them do things like give things away. They are, the things that they've cherished, they will, give them to others. You will notice that they're planning to be gone. So everything that is around them, everything that mattered to them, they're trying to push it out and push it away. And it's a sense of, if I detach myself, I may not have the guilt associated with leaving my loved ones behind. So they have this superficial thought process that really, really should be treated.
Okay. Well said. I wanted to ask you one really significant question because my organization provides mental health supportive services and youth mental and integrative health services to school systems. And there has been a lot of discussion about the mental health of youth. And I understand that there are a lot of youth really struggling. And I will say in previous conversations that I've had with other medical professionals, there has been, I would say, some discussion about suicidal ideation, suicide attempts, and successful suicides in much younger individuals. And so I want to get your thoughts to the best of your knowledge. What are you facing as it relates to their mental health?
For youth in the United States, about 1 in 6, ages 6 to 17 years of age, experience a mental health disorder each year. Also, 1 in 6 children in the U.S. ages 2 to 8 years of age have been diagnosed with either mental or behavioral or developmental disorder. So these conditions are real amongst our children, and the support that organizations are providing for youth becomes very imperative because we want children to develop and grow into adults who are able to contribute to society. But when they're suffering and not receiving treatment, this definitely can lead to things like attempts at suicide, behavioral issues at school. And we want the public to be aware that treatment is available no matter the age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember talking to a young lady that unfortunately was a survivor of gun violence. And so there was a shooting at her school. And one of the things that she's done because of that experience is she now advocates for increased mental health awareness and mental health conversations and really trying to encourage mental health at a much younger age. And one of the things that I thought was really impactful is she talked about how she said, like, if I had received mental health services when I was a young person, like when I was like 6 and when I was 8, it would have made me more better able to deal with challenges throughout life. And, and it's interesting. And what I said when we were having that conversation is I find it very interesting that we do encourage kids to exercise because we understand how important physical health is.
Yes.
And so you will have gym class and you will teach kids about the importance of physical activity. But we don't do that as it relates to mental health. We don't talk about teaching coping skills and ways to regulate, self-regulate and emotional intelligence. And I just thought that was very interesting. We usually wait till a kid is struggling with behavioral issues at school or something like that before they get help. We don't really do it from a proactive standpoint. What are your thoughts about that?
Prevention is absolutely key. We must focus on how can we make the whole person well. We don't want to wait until something happens because prevention can bring the numbers down. They can bring the mortality rates down. They can bring admissions to hospitals, and they can bring they can foster improvement. So yes, treat the whole person. We want to make sure we're eating right, we're sleeping right, we're exercising. Treat that whole body because the mind is connected to the heart is connected to the gut, the entire body. So you have to treat the entire body so that the whole person is well. We don't want to wait until it's too late.
Yeah. It's, it's interesting because we don't think about sometimes the most obvious things.
Right.
Unfortunately, oftentimes, like I said, necessary conversations or necessary action doesn't take place until something happens. We're very reactive.
Reactive, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
very,
agree.
very,
I agree.
very much so. Now, most of the time, people want to be supportive of their loved ones. However, they may not know how to be supportive, and most importantly, how not to be harmful. That is really important. So, how can a parent, family member, or caregiver provide support to someone that may be struggling with their mental health?
First off, providing and showing unconditional love is key. You want your loved one to know that you are there for them regardless of what they're going through. Tell them you are there for them no matter the circumstances. And do that by spending time together, getting to know one another, sharing moments that matter. Also, communication is absolutely key. What we want to encourage people to do is to talk about things on a regular basis. Talk about what you're feeling, what you're going through, what upsets you, and even what gets you motivated, what gets you going. You don't want to have challenging conversations in a challenging moment. So making communication key, making it easy to talk, making sure that you tell your loved one, this is a safe space. Whatever you need from me, I'm here for you. Having those conversations on a regular basis allows hard conversations to be a little bit more easy to discuss.
Yeah. It's interesting because something I recommend to my clients often, especially to the parents of children, I recommend to the parents that when you are going through a difficult time, to not hide it, to not go into a different room, cry in the closet, cry in the shower. Actually show your kids that you do have emotions, and show your kids what are the steps that you take to go through a difficult moment. And I love that you also mentioned the kind of the positive aspects of life. So, talking about what motivates you and what drives you, I think having those kind of conversations, because I could see how if you are motivated by something and then asking your child or asking a loved one, what are you motivated by in this situation? I think that would produce a wonderful opportunity to understand the thoughts of the people that are around us. And I know that sounds so simple, but sometimes we don't. We kind of go through this. I think sometimes we go through the motions of life and forget to stop and have necessary conversations about how are you feeling about what's going on in your life? How are you dealing with that? Why are you so excited about that thing that's happening in your life, and having those conversations? And I think, as you mentioned, that we oftentimes have challenging conversation during challenging times, and that may not be ideal. It may be more ideal to have a conversation about a challenging time when you're actually in a really good, positive mental state, or in a time of peace.
Absolutely. And talking about things that motivate you, that encourage you, these are key components when the times of struggle come in, because you think back and say, hey, how about we point to the thing that you love? So you bring these things up in times of challenges, times of struggles, to help that person cope. These are positive coping skills that we can instill and not even realize the impact that it has.
Yeah, very much so. Now, let's say that you are an individual struggling with your mental health and you do want to receive help and support. How can people receive the help and support that they're seeking?
Depending upon what's going on in that moment, in a crisis situation, you definitely can reach out to 988lifeline.org. You can go online. You also can call 988 for help 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can even text 988. That's the suicide and prevention crisis line. At Priority Health, we do have our behavioral health team available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they provide confidential help. That number is on the back of all Priority Health member cards.
Okay, excellent. Now, I know that you are a very successful person in your own right, and you and I did have a wonderful conversation. I was able to learn a lot about the journey that you traveled to get to where you are today. I do feel like that oftentimes people find themselves in certain careers, and the trajectory that their career goes is often motivated by different experiences that they've had throughout their life. And as I mentioned at the very beginning of the interview today, that a lot of my motivation for why I do what I do and why I do use my platform to increase awareness about things like suicide and the importance of mental health has been because I've been so deeply impacted in my own personal life with a lot. As I shared for you, my mother died very early, and I did realize after she died that she was in a clinical state of depression because I found notes that she had been writing to herself, depressed, have to get my life together. And then when my brother died some years later, he was only 26. And to get that phone call after just having a conversation with him weeks before where everything seemed okay, it was really, it was shocking. It was shocking. I didn't see it coming. I had no idea that at a time, actually, when I was at a very good time in my life, that my brother was obviously in a very bad time in his life. And what was really sad is that when I had conversations with people that knew him, there were those warning signs and there were indications that he was not doing well and had not been doing well for some time. But I wish that I didn't have to share that experience with others. I wish that that didn't have to be my motivation for why I do what I do. I don't know if suicide is something that has personally touched your life, if you have known someone that has died by suicide or attempted suicide. Have you had anyone that has died by suicide or attempted suicide?
I have not had anyone who has died by suicide, or no one personally to me has come to me and said, I've had thoughts of suicide. I attempted suicide. It's always been in the clinical setting for me. However, what I can say is my life has been impacted by a lot of family members who struggled with some form of addiction, whether it be drugs or alcohol. And my career took the trajectory it did because of the loved ones that surrounded me and me wanting to get an understanding of what is it that I can do to prevent these types of things from continuing on. How is it that I can educate myself so that I can assist others? to tell you the real Angela, when I applied to medical school, I applied to be a gynecologist. My whole goal was to become a gynecologist. But when I started my rotations in psychiatry, I really felt drawn and connected to the struggles that people had. And unfortunately, people who struggle with mental illness, they're shied away from. They're often the last people that others want to associate with or deal with or even, have relationships with. And that was truly something that touched my heart. And I really believe that this field chose me because I was not in pursuit of becoming a psychiatrist, but
Yeah.
I believe that those that I've helped along the way, and they've helped me to become who I am also.
Yeah, very much so. I could definitely see how that would be so true in your life. And I imagine that during the difficult times, and we all have difficult times in our lives, and I think that sometimes when we're in medical professionals, medical professions and wellness professions, people forget that you're people. and that things happen, different life challenges and, loss and, all the things that everybody's experiences in life. But I think we forget that the person that you're seeking help from also is human like you and goes through those same experiences. And I imagine there have been many times along that journey when you have been inspired, encouraged, and motivated by the people that you're helping. But you've also had to do that at times when you yourself had to kind of pull yourself up,
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Life comes with challenges. And when you are in, a high stress job, you definitely feel it. You feel it physically, you feel it mentally, and you find ways to remain motivated. I couldn't do what I do without having support of family, friends, and even the patients that I have come across over the years. There's no way that you can get through life without help, without assistance, without some connection to pull you through.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, as we end today, can you remind those that are going to be listening to the interview again how they can seek help if they would like to seek help for mental health?
Absolutely. You can always text or call 988 in a crisis. That is a suicide prevention crisis line. You can also go online at 988lifeline.org. That's 988lifeline.org for confidential help. Also with Priority Health, we do have our behavioral health team available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for that private confidential help. And that number is on the back of all member cards.
Okay, perfect. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend it with me once again. I understand that you are away and having fun with your friends. And so for you to take that time out to have a conversation with me, I'm very, very appreciative of it and always appreciative of you and the wonderful work that you do for so many.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure on your platform. Listen, you have empowered so many. Continue doing so, okay?
I will definitely. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Empowered with Angela T. Moore. Feel free to share this episode with someone you think would enjoy it. New episodes come out weekly. Follow our show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're listening right now.